The rhythmic, insistent beeping of a monitor pulled me from a thick fog. The air smelled sharp, a sterile blend of alcohol and bleach that stung my nose. My head was a drum, throbbing with a deep, percussive ache. I tried to force my eyes open, but my left one was swollen completely shut. When I tentatively raised a hand to my face, my fingers brushed against the crust of dried blood on my lip and a sharp, tender ridge along my cheekbone that felt like a crack in porcelain. My entire body felt heavy, weighted down by a profound, bruising pain. My thoughts were slow, moving as if through deep water. Yet, one sound cut through the haze, the horrifying, explosive sound of glass shattering into a million pieces. Then, the voices echoed in my mind, my father's, chilling and quiet. "Do not bring disgrace upon this family," and my mother's, following right after, a venomous hiss, "See what you forced him to do." I was in a hospital, and this was no accident. It had all ignited at a party, a celebration for my brother's birthday. It began with a champagne toast, a gold pen, and a legal document. It began because my parents ordered me to buy my brother a private jet. It began because, for the first time in my life, I said no. Before we get into the whole story, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling me what part of the world you're watching from. I'd love to know. I was raised in a sprawling estate in Alpine, New Jersey. The long, serpentine driveway was flanked by oak trees that seemed as ancient as the state itself. The house was a fortress of gray stone, draped in ivy that crept up its walls, making it look like a postcard from another century. From a distance, it was a picture of perfection. We were the perfect family. But inside, it was a cold, cavernous space. The marble floors amplified every footstep into a lonely echo. My mother despised noise. She called it uncivilized. So we learned to move like ghosts. We learned to speak in hushed tones. Our house was never a home. It was a museum, and we were merely exhibits within its walls. My father, Edward Sterling, was what the financial journals called a titan of Wall Street. To me, he was a heavy, purposeful tread in the hallway. He was the scent of expensive sandalwood cologne and the constant rustle of financial reports. He helmed a behemoth of a hedge fund, Sterling Dynamics. He built it from the ground up, or so he always claimed. He expected absolute perfection. He had no patience for failure, and he certainly had no tolerance for feelings. Feelings were a liability, a messy distraction from the clean pursuit of success. His study was at the far end of the West Wing, behind imposing double doors of dark cherry wood. We were forbidden to enter unless summoned. I was typically summoned to deliver his black coffee or a market analysis I'd prepared for him. My mother, Eleanor, was a society queen. Her entire existence revolved around maintaining a flawless public image and throwing parties that were the envy of her circle. She was rail-thin, impeccably dressed, and her ash-blonde hair was always sculpted into a perfect chignon. Her voice was soft as silk, but her words could cut like glass. She would glance at me and say, "Maya, your shoulders, you're hunching again. A lady commands respect with her posture." Or, "That shade of green makes you look sallow. It's not your color." She never spoke with anger, only with a quiet, withering disappointment that always felt infinitely worse. Her life was governed by a social calendar, the charity ball, the art gallery board meeting, the benefit luncheon. My job, since I was about 14, was to manage that calendar. I coordinated her drivers, her salon appointments, and the caterers for her events. And then there was Liam, my brother, 2 years my senior. He was the golden heir, the prince. He had our father's dashing looks, the same easy smile that never quite reached his eyes, and the same core of ice within. He was the one who was destined for greatness. Everything was for Liam. Liam would one day take over Sterling Dynamics. Liam was the future of the Sterling legacy, and I was just Maya. I was the invisible force that kept the machine running. I was the one who ensured the perfect family remained perfect. My role was straightforward. I was not to fail, I was not to feel, and I was not to need. My purpose was to serve. I remember when I was 16, Liam had a major literature essay due for his AP English class. It was worth 40% of his final grade. He'd been out at a concert. He'd completely forgotten. He sauntered in late, reeking of cheap beer, and just laughed. "Oh, right, that paper's due in the morning." My mother's gaze didn't land on him, it found me. "Maya, you're so good with literature. Help your brother." And help was just a code word for do. I was up the entire night. I sat in the grand, silent library, surrounded by leather-bound classics, and wrote 15 pages on the symbolism in The Great Gatsby. I was so exhausted my vision blurred. At dawn, I printed it out and slipped it into his briefcase. He got an A+. He told our father, I didn't even break a sweat. My father clapped him on the back. "That's my son." Liam shot me a look over our father's shoulder, a small, cruel smirk. He knew, I knew, but his success was the only one that registered. Our family dinners were stiff, silent affairs in the formal dining room. We sat at a table so vast I felt like I needed binoculars to see my father at the other end. The only sound was the delicate clinking of silver against bone china. "Liam, how did the pitch to the new investors go?" my father would ask. "Crushed it," Liam would reply. "Old Henderson said it was the most innovative strategy he's seen in a decade." "Excellent." "Excellent," my mother would chime in with a practiced smile. We should have a small dinner to celebrate. Just 70 or so of our closest friends. Then nothing. They never asked about my classes. They never asked about my day. I was the silent girl who passed the pepper. I was smart. I knew I was. I excelled in my advanced courses. I was captain of the debate team. But those achievements were dismissed as mere hobbies. Liam's C average was seen as the mark of a laid-back genius who didn't need to try. My 4.0 GPA was simply what was expected. Once, I came down with a terrible flu, a raging fever. I was 17. My mother was hosting a fundraiser luncheon at the house. "Maya, I need you downstairs," she called through my bedroom door. "I'm really sick, Mom. I don't think I can." She let out that signature sigh, the one dripping with disappointment. "The pastry chef is missing the silver tongs for the petit fours. I can't seem to find them, and you always know where everything is. Can you please just handle it?" I hauled myself out of bed, my head pounding. I went to the silver pantry, located the tongs, and delivered them to the frantic staff. Then I noticed a disaster with the floral centerpieces and had to fix it. Then I had to rearrange the seating chart because two rival socialites had been placed side by side. When I was finally finished, my mother patted my cheek. "There. That wasn't so terrible, was it? Now run back to bed, and please try not to cough on the guests." I was a function, a manager, a fixer. I was never a person. I was a daughter in name only. My bedroom was tucked away in the back of the house, in what used to be the maid's quarters. My mother called it cozy. It was tiny. Liam's room was a full suite with a private bathroom and a balcony overlooking the gardens. My small room was my only sanctuary, but even there I wasn't free. My family would leave me lists on my desk. "Maya, pick up my tailored suits." "Maya, call the technician for the pool's heating system." "Maya, Liam needs his tuxedo pressed for the gala on Saturday." I existed to smooth over the inconveniences in their lives. I was the shock absorber for the Sterling family. My own needs, my own dreams, my own feelings. They were just inconvenient bumps in the road, and they were always smoothed out until they were perfectly flat, until I was flat, invisible, silent. That was the gilded cage. It was beautiful, it was priceless, and it was suffocating me. I was raised not to rattle the bars, but to polish them. I was raised to serve the very people who had locked me inside. This pattern was set so early that I can't recall a time before it. I was conditioned, like a show pony, to always put my own needs last. My very first memory isn't of a hug, it's of being shushed because my father was on a business call. When I was 7 and Liam was 9, we both received a small weekly allowance. He would blow his on video games and junk food within a day. I saved every single dollar. I carefully placed my earnings in a small ceramic moon-shaped bank. I desperately wanted a telescope. I saved for nearly a year. One afternoon, I came home from school to find my moon bank missing from my bookshelf. I ran to my mother, my heart hammering. "Mom, where's my moon bank?" She was penning invitations at her writing desk, not even looking up. Liam needed money for his class trip to the Science Museum. "You don't mind, do you, dear? It's important to share, Maya." I did mind. I minded with every fiber of my being, but I just stood there, mute. I'd already learned that no was a forbidden word. No meant I was selfish. No meant I was a bad daughter. So I whispered, "It's okay." Liam went on his trip. I never did get that telescope. A few months later, for his birthday, my parents bought him a new, high-powered, professional-grade telescope. "He's a growing boy. He needs to cultivate his interests," my father declared. As we grew older, the pattern only intensified. My efforts were never my own. They were a family asset. Liam's wants were always more important. When I was 16, I got a part-time job at a local bookstore. I loved the quiet and the smell of old paper. I worked nearly 20 hours a week. For 2 years, I saved every penny I made, putting it all into a dedicated savings account. I had amassed almost $10,000. It was my freedom fund. I dreamt of using it for a down payment on a small apartment in the city, or maybe a trip to Italy after I graduated. A trip all for me. It was the very first thing that felt truly mine. I got home from school one afternoon. It was a Thursday. My parents were in the living room celebrating with a bottle of champagne. "What's the occasion?" I asked. "We did it, darling," my mother sang, her face flushed with excitement. "We just closed on the most divine summer home in Martha's Vineyard." "Wow, that's amazing," I said, trying to sound happy for them. My father turned to me with a rare, expansive grin. "And you were the one who helped us seal the deal, Maya. We were just a little short on the closing costs. I had the bank transfer the funds from your savings account this morning. It was exactly what we needed to get it over the line." The air left my lungs. $10,000, my money, my hours, my dream. You took my money?" My father's smile vanished, his eyes turning to chips of ice. "I didn't take it. I utilized it. It's for the family. You are a part of this family, are you not?" I looked to my mother for help. Her smile was gone too, replaced by a look of irritation. "Maya, don't be so dramatic. You'll adore the house. We'll all be so happy there. You should feel proud that you were able to contribute." "But that was mine," I whispered, my hand starting to tremble. "I earned it." "And we give you a roof over your head," my father snapped. "We pay for your food, your clothes, your elite education. Do not be ungrateful. That money was our money, simply sitting in an account with your name on it. It's for the family. It's for the family. It's for the family. That was the phrase that smothered every argument. It was the phrase that erased me. I walked up to my room. I didn't have the energy to cry. I just sat on the edge of my bed and felt a vast, echoing emptiness. It didn't matter what I accomplished. It didn't matter how hard I worked. I wasn't a person. I was a piggy bank, a resource, and they could shatter me whenever they felt the need. The worst part was, I never saw a cent of it back. And when we went to the new house, Liam got the master guest suite with the ocean view. I got the tiny room next to the laundry room. The pattern wasn't just about money. It was about my own light. My purpose was not to shine. It was to make Liam's star burn brighter. In my senior year of high school, I poured months of effort into a submission for a national essay competition. The topic was on modern economic theory. I loved the research. It was logical. It was factual. It was based on truth. Everything my family was not. I won. I won first place in the entire country. I received a plaque, a small trophy, and a $10,000 scholarship to any university I chose. I drove home, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of something warm in my chest. It felt like pride. I walked into the house, holding the trophy. My father, mother, and Liam were in the den, debating which model of Porsche Liam should get for his graduation. I won, I said, holding up the trophy. I won the national essay competition. My mother glanced over distractedly. Oh, that's lovely, dear. Very nice. She immediately turned back to Liam. The dark gray is far more sophisticated, Liam. The blue is too ostentatious. Blue is faster, Liam argued. Dad? I won, I repeated, a little louder. I got a scholarship. My father finally looked at me, then at the trophy in my hands. He gave a single, curt nod. Good. That's good, Maya. Solid work. Then he pulled out his phone. Now, I have to take this call. Liam, just pick a color. I'm paying for the car. I want to be able to look at it. He strode out of the room. I just stood there, the trophy suddenly feeling heavy and foolish in my hands. I took it to my room. I didn't place it on my shelf. I opened my closet, pushed aside a stack of old textbooks, and set it on the floor in the back. I shut the door. My light wasn't welcome here. It was a distraction. It stole the spotlight from Liam. I had broken the rules by trying to shine. I learned my lesson. I stopped mentioning my accomplishments. I ended up going to a state university nearby, Rutgers, and lived at home. It was more practical. I majored in finance. Not because I had a passion for it. My passion was for literature and history. But my father insisted finance was useful. You're good with numbers, Maya, he'd said. You can help me manage the family portfolio. You can help Liam. Help Liam. I was being groomed to be his lifelong assistant, his financial shadow, his invisible support system. My selflessness was never a choice. It was a job description. It was my servitude, and I was growing so weary of it. There was one person who truly saw me. His name was Samuel Vance. He was my mother's father, but he was nothing like them. My grandfather didn't care for appearances. He lived in a small, cluttered house in upstate New York, wore worn-out cardigans with patches on the elbows, and his home smelled of pipe tobacco, old books, and wood shavings from his workshop. My mother despised visiting him. She said he was an eccentric who had failed to live up to his potential. The truth was, he was a genius. He was a reclusive mathematician who had made a fortune in the early days of quantitative trading. He was a thinker, like I wanted to be. When I was a little girl, he would sit with me on his porch swing. He didn't talk at me. He asked me questions. "What are you reading, Maybug?" He'd call me. "What's on your mind today?" Show me that interesting leaf you found. Let's look at its veins under the magnifying glass. He saw my intellect. He didn't care about my posture. He didn't mind that I was quiet. In fact, he cherished it. You're a thinker, he'd say, tapping his temple. That's the most precious thing a person can be. He knew exactly what my family was like. He would look at me with sad, knowing eyes whenever I spoke of my life at home. I never had to spell out the painful parts. He just understood. Don't you let them grind you down, Maybug, he told me just a few months before he passed away. I was 22 at the time. You're made of stronger material. You're made of my material. He died peacefully in his sleep. At the funeral, my mother wept for the benefit of the attendees. My father checked his watch every 10 minutes. A week later, his lawyer, a Mr. Davies, called me. He requested I come to his office alone. I sat in a plush leather chair across from Mr. Davies, an older gentleman with the same kind eyes as my grandfather. Your grandfather was a very brilliant man, Maya, he said. He was also a very discreet man. He established a specific trust many years ago, entirely separate from his primary estate, which your mother inherited. He slid a thick document across the polished desk. He left this for you. It's a blind trust. I was named as the executor. The terms are quite clear. It becomes your property in full on your 25th birthday, not a day sooner. I looked at the summary page. I read the numbers. Then I read them again. My hands began to shake. It was millions upon millions of dollars. This can't be real, I stammered. It's very real, Mr. Davies said gently. Your grandfather was far more successful than your family ever realized. He kept the bulk of his assets carefully shielded from them. He pointed to a line at the bottom of the page. It was a small, handwritten note from my grandfather, scanned and embedded in the legal document. For my Maybug, for you and you alone. To build a life of your own. Don't let them take it. Be free. I started to cry, real cathartic tears, for the first time in years. It wasn't just about the money, it was about him. He had seen me, he had seen what was happening, and he had forged a key. He had given me a way out of the cage. The trust is ironclad, Mr. Davies explained. It cannot be accessed by anyone else. Not your father, not your mother. It is yours, and yours alone. On your 25th birthday, I will transfer full control to you. I walked out of that law office feeling like I was floating on air. I had a secret. I had a future. I had a promise. For 2 years, I kept that secret buried deep. I continued to play the role of the quiet, compliant daughter. I managed the household. I helped Liam with his business proposals. I finished my degree in finance. I was biding my time. But my family's perfect world was beginning to show cracks. My father's company, Sterling Dynamics, was built on a single proprietary trading algorithm. I would later learn that my grandfather had designed that very program. My father had partnered with him, taken the idea, and built his financial empire upon it. But now, that algorithm was becoming outdated. Market dynamics were changing. The company was hemorrhaging money. My father needed a massive infusion of capital. They must have had their own lawyers snooping around my grandfather's estate, because 1 week before my 25th birthday, the war began. I was summoned to my father's study. The dark cherry wood doors. My mother was there, perched on a chair, anxiously twisting her diamond ring. Liam was leaning against the bookshelf, smirking. Maya, my father began, not bothering to ask me to sit, we've become aware of the trust your grandfather established for you. My blood turned to ice. It is a considerable sum, he continued, his voice flat. a sum you are in no way equipped to manage. It's my money, I said, my voice barely a whisper. It is family money, my father corrected, his voice hardening. Your grandfather was a part of this family. That money belongs in this family. It will be used to secure this family's future. He slid a document across his desk. It was a power of attorney form. It would grant him complete control over the trust. Sign this, he commanded. I looked at him. I looked at my mother, who was nodding encouragingly. It's for the best, dear. I looked at Liam, who was examining his fingernails with an air of boredom. I thought of my grandfather's note. Don't let them take it. Be free. No, I said. The room went utterly still. My father's expression didn't change, but a dangerous darkness flickered in his eyes. What did you just say? I said no. Grandfather left it for me. My mother gasped dramatically. Maya, how can you be so selfish? She immediately started to cry, her tears always being her primary weapon. After everything we've given you, you would let us be ruined? You would destroy your brother's future? My father stood up. He was a tall, imposing man. He leaned over the desk. You are being a fool, Maya. You will sign this paper. No. He slammed his palm down on the desk. The sound was like a gunshot, and I flinched. You ungrateful child. You live in my house. You eat my food. You will do as you are told. It's my money, I repeated, trembling but holding my ground. Get out, he hissed. Get out of my sight. I fled to my room and locked the door. I could hear their shouting downstairs. My mother's theatrical sobs, my father's furious roaring. Later, Liam knocked on my door. His voice was deceptively soft. May, come on, open up, let's talk. I remained silent. Don't be like this, he wheedled. You know how Dad gets. Just sign the papers. It's only money. We're family. Just sign it, and we can all go back to normal. I buried my face in my knees. Go away, Liam. His tone shifted instantly, the faux kindness vanishing. You're a stupid little bitch, you know that? You think you're so much better than us? You're nothing. You've always just been the help. He stormed away. The war had officially begun. And for the first time in my life, I had a shield. I had my grandfather's promise. The year between my 25th birthday and Liam's gala was a special kind of hell. My refusal to sign the papers didn't end the discussion. It merely began the siege. My family didn't fight with logic. They fought with manipulation, with threats, with a relentless campaign to break my will. My 25th birthday arrived. I went to Mr. Davies's office and signed the final papers. The trust was officially mine. On paper, I was an incredibly wealthy woman. When I returned home, my father and mother were waiting for me in the foyer. He had clearly found out. He must have had his own lawyers on standby. So, he said, his voice dripping with ice, it's done. Yes, I said. You have made a grave error, Maya. You have just declared war on your own family. I haven't, I said, my voice small. I just want what's mine. What is yours, he sneered, is a direct consequence of my hard work. The roof over your head, the education I provided. You would be nothing without me. From that moment on, he treated me as if I were invisible. He wouldn't speak to me or even look in my direction. At the dinner table, he would ask my mother, Eleanor, would you tell Maya to pass the salt? It was a cold, suffocating silence designed to isolate me. He canceled my credit card. He took back the keys to the small car I used. He was trying to prove I couldn't survive without his support, but I had my own funds now. I opened my own bank account, got my own phone, and started making quiet plans. My mother's strategy was to drown me in guilt. She used tears as her ammunition. She would corner me in the kitchen, the library, even my own room. "Maya, you are killing your father," she would whisper, her eyes brimming with tears. "The stress, his heart, he can't sleep. He built this company for all of us, for you, for Liam." "He built it for himself," I'd reply quietly. "How can you be so callous?" she would sob. "You're tearing this family apart. Liam is so disappointed in you. He's always looked up to you." That was such an outrageous lie, I almost laughed. Liam had never looked at me unless he needed something. "Mom, please just stop." "I will not stop. I am your mother. I am trying to save you from your own foolishness. You know nothing about the world. You aren't capable of managing that kind of money. Men will take advantage of you. You'll lose every penny. Your father only wants to protect it, to protect you." "He wants to protect Liam," I stated. "Liam's future is this family's future. Why can't you understand that? Why must you be so selfish?" This became a daily, sometimes twice daily, ritual. It was like a slow-acting poison. I started to second-guess myself. Was I being selfish? Was I destroying them? Was I the villain in this story? Liam tried a different angle. He attempted to play the part of the concerned, good-natured brother. "May," he'd say, leaning casually against my doorframe. "Look, I know Dad's being a total ass, and Mom is... well, she's Mom, but they're just scared. The company isn't doing well." "I know," I said. "I have this huge deal I'm putting together, a new fintech venture. It could save everything. It could make Sterling Dynamics bigger than ever. But I need capital. I need a major investor." He paused for effect, then flashed his charming smile. "You're an investor now, right? You could invest in me, in the family. It would solve everything. Dad would get off your back. We could finally be a team." "You want my money, Liam?" "I want our money to save our family," he said smoothly. "Come on, just help me out." "No, Liam, I'm not giving you my money." His smile evaporated. "You really are a cold-hearted bitch. Grandfather really did ruin you." "No," I said, looking him straight in the eye for the first time. "He saved me." The pressure was relentless, but the most sinister part was my father's new plan. He began telling people I was unwell. I'd overhear him on the phone in his study. "Yes, it's a terrible tragedy. Maya isn't herself. She's become fragile, very unstable. We're looking into getting her professional help." My mother did the same with her friends over lunch. "We're just so worried. She's had some sort of breakdown. She's become delusional, thinks she's inherited some vast fortune. It's all terribly sad." They were constructing a narrative. They were painting me as mentally unstable. They were laying the groundwork to have me declared incompetent so they could seize the money legally. I was terrified. I snuck out of the house like a fugitive to see Mr. Davies. "They're trying to say I'm crazy," I told him, my voice trembling in the quiet of his office. He nodded grimly, looking calm. "I anticipated this. Edward is a predictable man. What do I do? For now, you do nothing," he said. "You live your life, you let them talk, but you also prepare." He pulled a thick file from his desk. "Your grandfather was a wise man, Maya. He knew Edward would try something like this. He constructed this trust to be a fortress. He included letters from your childhood psychologists, school evaluations, academic records, even letters from himself detailing his concerns about your father's controlling nature." He tapped the file. "Your grandfather didn't just build you a shelter, Maya. He built you a fortress, and he gave me the keys. This trust isn't just money, it's an arsenal. Edward is bringing a knife to a gunfight. He just doesn't know it yet." I felt a small, hard kernel of strength form in my chest. My grandfather had foreseen it all. He had planned for this very battle. I wasn't alone. "What do I do now?" I asked. "Now," Mr. Davies said, "you wait. Your father is a man of immense pride. He won't keep this fight private for long. He will try to humiliate you into submission. He will make a very public move, and when he does, we will be ready." I went home. The pressure continued, the whispers, the tears, the chilling silence. But something inside me had shifted. I was no longer just the compliant daughter. I was a target, yes, but I was also a fortress. A week later, a thick, cream-colored envelope was lying on my pillow. My hands were surprisingly steady as I opened it. "You are cordially invited to celebrate the 29th birthday of Mr. Liam Sterling." It was for a gala, a massive, ostentatious party at the most exclusive ballroom in New York City. Hundreds of guests, all of my father's business partners, investors, and society friends. I knew with a certainty that settled deep in my bones that this was it. This was the public stage. This was the arena where he would try to break me for good. I went to the gala. I knew I was walking into a trap. I spent the entire day feeling nauseous, unable to eat. I stayed in my room, and my mother didn't knock to tell me to get my hair styled. They were leaving me completely alone, which was somehow more frightening than their constant harassment. I didn't wear the gown my mother had purchased for me, a heavy, dark sapphire silk that felt like a costume. Instead, I chose a simple, long-sleeved black dress I had bought myself. It was plain, but it felt like armor. I put my hair up in a simple knot and didn't wear the sterling family jewels my mother had laid out. The only piece of jewelry I wore was a small, silver locket that had belonged to my grandfather. When I walked down the grand staircase, my family was waiting in the foyer. My father was in a flawless tuxedo. My mother shimmered in a silver sequined gown. Liam was preening, his hair slicked back, looking like a villain from a cheap movie. My mother's eyes raked over me and her face tightened. "Is that what you're wearing?" she hissed. "You look like one of the staff." "I'm comfortable," I said evenly. My father gave me a long, cold assessment. "It doesn't matter. Let's go." The limousine ride was thick with a silence that was louder than shouting. It was filled with everything we weren't saying. He was going to do it. He was going to do it in front of the whole world. We arrived at the ballroom. It was a glittering sea of people. Cameras flashed as we made our entrance. The Sterling family, perfect, powerful, beautiful. I smiled. My muscles were trained for this, even if my mind was screaming. "Edward, Eleanor, marvelous to see you." People flocked to us, shaking my father's hand, kissing my mother's cheek. "And this must be Liam. Happy birthday, young man. You're the man of the hour." Liam laughed, soaking it in. Thank you. It's going to be a great night." Then their eyes would fall on me. "And your daughter." "Maya," my mother would say, her voice tight with disapproval. As we walked away, I could hear the whispers. "That's the one I was telling you about. The unwell one. She looks so pale. Such a tragedy." My father's campaign had worked. He had already cast me as the family ghost. I spent 2 hours drifting through the party, clutching a glass of water. I smiled. I nodded. I said almost nothing. I found a spot near a large marble pillar and just watched. I watched my father hold court, laughing. I watched my mother glide through the crowd like a queen. I watched Liam accept congratulations as if he'd just single-handedly saved the world. I felt completely and utterly alone. I was in a room with 500 people, and I was either invisible or, worse, a prop. I was the sad, broken piece of their perfect family portrait. I thought about just walking out, but I knew I couldn't. This was the moment. Mr. Davies was right. My father was a proud man. He had to do this publicly. I had to see it through. Then the house lights dimmed. A single spotlight hit the stage. My father walked to the microphone. "Good evening," he boomed, his voice filling the cavernous room. "Thank you all for being here tonight to celebrate my son, my heir, Liam." The crowd applauded warmly. Liam stood and gave a slight bow. My father spoke for 10 minutes, weaving a grand narrative of Liam's supposed brilliance, his vision, and the bright future of Sterling Dynamics. "Liam is poised to take this company to the next level," my father declared. "He is spearheading a new global initiative, a project that will redefine our industry. But to do that, he needs the proper tools." My stomach twisted into a knot. Here it was. He needs to be able to move, to fly, to be where the deals are happening at a moment's notice. He needs a jet. A murmur of impressed awe went through the crowd. "And we, as a family, are going to provide him with one." My father's eyes swept across the room and then they locked onto me. He smiled. It was a cold, predatory smile. "We are so proud of all of our children," he said. "My daughter Maya has recently come into a significant inheritance from her grandfather, a very, very substantial amount." Every single head in the room swiveled to look at me. 500 pairs of eyes. I felt a hot flush creep up my neck. I thought I might be sick. The spotlight left my father and swung over, pinning me in my corner by the pillar. I was trapped in its glare. And Maya, in an act of incredible generosity, has decided to use that family money to secure her brother's future, to secure the Sterling family's future. My mother was beaming, tears of pride glistening in her eyes for the performance. "Maya," my father said, holding out a hand, "please, come up here." I couldn't move. My feet felt like they were encased in concrete. Someone behind me gave my arm a little push. "Go on," they whispered. I walked. Each step felt like wading through thick mud. The stage seemed miles away. I could hear the click of my own heels on the floor, the frantic pounding of my own heart. When I finally reached the stage, my father wrapped an arm around my shoulders. It felt as heavy and cold as an iron chain. The crowd applauded, celebrating my supposed generosity. My father held the microphone close. "She is a wonderful daughter," he said to the room. Liam walked onto the stage, holding a leather-bound folder and a pen, an expensive, heavy gold fountain pen. My father took the folder and opened it. "This document simply transfers the management of her grandfather's trust into the Sterling Family Fund to allow us to make this and other vital investments on behalf of the family." He handed me the pen. Cameras were flashing, blinding white strobes. I looked at the paper. It was the same power of attorney document, the one that would sign away everything. "Sign it, daughter," my father whispered, so only I could hear, his arm tightening on my shoulder. It hurt. The crowd was clapping, waiting, smiling. I looked at my father's cold, expectant eyes. I looked at my mother in the front row, mouthing the words, "Smile, Maya, smile." I looked at Liam, who was holding the folder, smirking at me. He thought he'd won. They all thought they'd won. And I thought of my grandfather. "Be free, Maybug." I was holding the pen. My hand was shaking. I looked down at the document, at the signature line waiting for my name. Then I looked up. I looked past the blinding lights, at the sea of strangers, and I said a single word, "No." My voice wasn't loud, but the microphone was live. The word echoed through the silent ballroom. "No." The applause didn't just fade, it stopped. It was as if someone had flipped a switch. The resulting silence was absolute, the loudest sound I had ever heard. I could hear a single ice cube clink in a glass somewhere. I heard a woman gasp. My father's smile froze on his face. His arm on my shoulder became a vice. "Maya," he hissed, but the microphone caught it. "No," I said again, and this time my voice was clear and strong. I placed the pen down on the open folder. "I will not be signing this." I turned and started to walk off the stage. The trap had sprung, but I wasn't caught. I took 2 steps, heading for the exit. I could feel 500 pairs of eyes burning into my back. I didn't look at them. I just wanted to get out. "Maya." My father's voice was no longer a request. It was a command. I kept walking. I heard a heavy footstep behind me, then a hand clamped down on my upper arm, yanking me around. It was my father. His face was no longer the calm, controlled mask of Edward Sterling, CEO. It was mottled with red. His eyes were wide and wild. His teeth were gritted. I had never seen him look like this. He was radiating pure fury. "Do not humiliate me," he snarled, his voice low and shaking with rage. The microphone was off now. This was just for me. "Let go of me," I said. My voice trembled, but I said it. "You will sign that paper. You will not make a fool of this family." "No." Liam was beside him now. "Dad, let's just go. Let's get her out of here." He looked terrified, not for me, for the scene, for the optics. "She will do as she is told," my father roared, no longer whispering. Liam grabbed my other arm. "Come on, May. Just stop this. You're making it worse." He tried to pull me back towards the stage. I wrenched myself free. I pulled away from both of them. With a strength I didn't know I had, I stumbled backward, away from them. I looked at my father, and in that moment, I saw the man who took my telescope fund, who stole my savings, who dismissed my achievements. "I owe you nothing," I said. The words were quiet, but he heard them. It wasn't the no that broke him. It was those words. "I owe you nothing." He had spent 27 years conditioning me to believe I owed him everything, my life, my obedience, my very existence. I had just informed him that his life's work on me had been a complete failure. The slap was like a crack of thunder. He hit me with his open hand, with the full force of his rage. My head snapped to the side. The sound was sharp, like a whip, and it echoed in the stunned silence of the ballroom. A hot, searing pain exploded across my entire cheek. My ear rang, my vision swam. I fell backward, completely off balance. My heel caught on the edge of a rug, and I crashed into something hard. It was the enormous, ornate, antique mirror in the foyer, the one my mother adored, the one she claimed was from a Venetian palace. My shoulder slammed into the glass. The sound wasn't a delicate tinkle like in the movies. It was a violent, tearing explosion as a huge, jagged section of the mirror splintered and broke away. I crumpled to the marble floor, landing hard on my side. There was another moment of terrible silence. Then the screaming began, not from me, from the guests. I brought a hand to my face. My cheek was on fire. I felt something wet and warm on my arm. I looked down. A shard of glass had sliced open my forearm. Blood was welling up, a dark crimson stain on my black dress. I looked up from the floor. My mother wasn't looking at me. She was staring, horrified at the broken mirror. Her hand was over her mouth. "My mirror," she whispered. "My God, my mirror." Liam was frozen, his face as white as a sheet, staring at my father. My father was standing over me. His hand was still half raised. He was panting. He looked at the blood on my arm. He looked at the shocked, horrified faces of his guests. His expression shifted. The rage vanished, and the cold mask of control slammed back into place. He looked down at me, bleeding on his floor, and he lowered his hand. "Look what you made me do," he said, his voice cold and devoid of emotion. "It was my fault. I had forced him to hit me. I had forced him to break the mirror." "Get up, Maya," he commanded. "You are causing a scene." I didn't move. I couldn't. My whole body was shaking. I heard a new sound, distant at first, then growing louder. A siren. Someone in the crowd had called 911. I saw a woman on her phone. Yes, at the Regency ballroom. A man just assaulted his daughter. She's bleeding. My father heard it. His eyes went wide with a new kind of fear. This was no longer a private family matter. This was public. This was a crime. He looked at me with an expression of pure, unadulterated hatred. "You have ruined this family," he spat. Then the EMTs were there, pushing through the gawking crowd, kneeling beside me. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" I looked at them, at the blood, at my father being held back by a security guard. I just nodded. They put me on a stretcher. As they carried me out, every guest was watching. The cameras were flashing again, but this time they weren't capturing a perfect family. They were capturing me, bleeding and broken. They were capturing my father, his face a mask of stone. The very last thing I saw was my mother weeping. She wasn't beside me. She was still standing by her precious mirror, gently touching the shattered glass. I woke up in the hospital. This is where the story truly began. The steady beeping of the heart monitor, the split in my face, the deep ache in my body. I lay there for hours, just staring at the acoustic tile ceiling. I felt numb. I wasn't Maya Sterling, the daughter, the helper, the ghost. I was just a person in a hospital bed, a collection of documented injuries, a stitched-up cut on my arm, a cheekbone blooming into a deep, angry purple, a mild concussion. A nurse came in. She had a kind face. She checked my vitals. "You have a visitor, dear," she said softly. "A social worker. Is that all right?" I nodded. A woman entered. She was in her 40s, with a calm demeanor and a clipboard. "Maya?" "Yes. My name is Maria. I'm a social worker with the hospital. I'm here to talk about what happened tonight." I just looked at her, unable to form words. "The police are here as well," she said gently. "They're waiting outside, but I wanted to speak with you first. Can you tell me what happened? Did your father hit you?" I swallowed. The words felt like stones in my throat. "Yes. Why did he hit you?" "I wouldn't sign a paper. He wanted my money. I told him no. I told him I owed him nothing." Maria made a note. She looked at me, her eyes full of a kindness I wasn't used to. "Maya, has he ever hit you before?" "No," I whispered. "Not like this. He's never been physical, just cold, angry. And your mother, your brother? They just watched." My mother was worried about her mirror. Maria nodded, as if this made perfect, sad sense to her. She looked down at her notes, then back at me. "I need to tell you something, Maya," she said. "What happened tonight? A father striking his daughter because she told him no. That isn't a family problem. That isn't discipline." She leaned a little closer. "That is assault. It's a crime." I started to cry then, not loud, heaving sobs, but silent, hot tears that streamed down my face and stung the cut on my cheek. I had spent my entire life being conditioned to believe that I was the problem, that I was ungrateful, selfish, difficult. This kind stranger with a clipboard was telling me, in no uncertain terms, that I was the victim, that he was the one who was wrong. "The police would like to take your statement," she said. "It's your choice, of course, but he did this in front of 500 witnesses. They can't just ignore it." "Okay," I whispered. "I'll talk to them." 2 detectives came in. They were formal and serious. I told them everything: the gala, the speech, the pin, the demand. I told them I said no. I told them he grabbed me. I told them I said, "I owe you nothing." I told them he slapped me. I told them I fell. They took meticulous notes. When they finally left, I was alone again. A few minutes later, Mr. Davies walked in, his face a grim mask. "Maya, my God," he said, his voice heavy. "They arrested him," I stated. It wasn't a question. "Yes, at the Gala, for assault. It's already all over the news wires. He's at the precinct now." I felt a strange, cold wave of relief wash over me. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now," he said, his voice firm, "we get you out of here. You cannot go back to that house. It is not safe." Mr. Davies arranged everything. He had me discharged and took me to a private, high-security hotel. He hired a guard to sit outside my door. For the first time in my life, I felt safe from my own family. I turned on the television. It was on every single news channel. My father's mugshot. Edward Sterling, CEO of Sterling Dynamics, arrested for assault. The story was everywhere. The perfect family was shattered in the most public way imaginable. I thought I would feel guilty. I thought I would feel shame. My father's cardinal rule was, do not bring disgrace upon this family. And I had, but I felt no guilt. I felt nothing at all. I just felt tired. For 2 days, the world outside my hotel room exploded. The media was in an absolute frenzy. The stock of Sterling Dynamics plummeted. The board of directors called an emergency meeting. And then my father struck back. A process server arrived at my door. He served me with legal papers. Mr. Davies was with me and took the documents. He read them, his face growing darker with every page. "What is it?" I asked. "He's done precisely what we predicted he would," Mr. Davies said grimly. "He's filed an emergency petition for conservatorship." My blood ran cold. "What does that mean?" "It means he is officially petitioning a judge to declare you mentally unfit, that you are unstable, a danger to yourself. He is using the scene at the Gala, your refusal, and his assault on you as proof that you are hysterical and insane." I couldn't breathe. He's saying I'm crazy." "He is," Mr. Davies confirmed. "He's claiming your grandfather's trust, combined with your so-called fragile mental state, has triggered a psychotic break. He is asking the court to make him your legal guardian, to give him control over your money, your home, your medical decisions, everything. He was trying to legally erase me. He had failed to take my money by force, so now he was trying to take my very identity by law. He was going to use my lifetime of quiet obedience as proof that I was not a whole, competent person. He can't win, can he?" I whispered, my voice shaking with terror. Mr. Davies looked at me, and for the first time, he smiled. "No, Maya, he can't." He tapped his briefcase. "Your father thinks this is a fight about your sanity. He is coming to court with insults and lies. He has no idea what your grandfather prepared for." "What did he prepare?" "Your father's empire, Sterling Dynamics. It's built on a single piece of technology, isn't it? That proprietary trading algorithm he invented 25 years ago." "Yes," I said. "That's his legacy." "No," Mr. Davies said, his voice low and serious. "It's your grandfather's." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick file. "Your grandfather didn't just leave you a trust, Maya. He left you an arsenal. He left you his original research notes. He left you the forged patent applications where your father signed his own name to your grandfather's work. He left you proof of the foundational theft that built your father's entire life." I stared at the file in awe. "He didn't just plan for this battle," Mr. Davies said. "He gave you the weapon to end the war." The day of the hearing was overcast. The sky was a flat, ugly shade of gray. I hadn't left the hotel in a week. The media was camped outside like vultures. Mr. Davies had to sneak me out through a service exit. The courtroom was a circus. It wasn't just lawyers, it was packed with press. My father had wanted to humiliate me publicly at the gala. Now he was getting his public spectacle, just not the one he'd planned. I walked in, Mr. Davies at my side. I saw my family in the front row. My father, Edward Sterling, was in a perfectly tailored navy suit, looking confident and powerful. He smiled at his legal team. My mother, Eleanor, was next to him, dressed in black with a veiled hat, as if she were attending a funeral. She was dabbing at her eyes with a lace handkerchief, putting on a show. Liam was there, looking gaunt and furious. When he saw me, his eyes filled with pure hatred. He mouthed one word at me, "Bitch." I sat down at the table with Mr. Davies. My hands were shaking so badly I had to hide them in my lap. "You are fine, Maya," Mr. Davies whispered. "Just be calm. Tell the truth." The judge entered, and the hearing began. My father's lawyers went first. They were slick, expensive, and they painted a convincing masterpiece of lies. "Your Honor," the lead attorney began, "we are here today because of a tragedy, a family tragedy. Maya Sterling is a wonderful but fragile young woman, and she is deeply unwell." He spoke for an hour, using my quiet nature as proof that I was withdrawn and non-communicative. He twisted my high grades into evidence of obsessive tendencies. He described the scene at the gala as a violent, hysterical outburst. Her poor father, the lawyer said with feigned sympathy, was forced to react as any loving parent would, to try and restrain his out-of-control daughter. He was trying to protect her, and in her delirium, she fell. They were painting me as the aggressor and him as the victim. They called my mother to the stand. She wept. "I'm so worried," she sobbed. "She's not my Maya anymore. She's become delusional, obsessed with this imaginary money. She's been unstable for years. Her father only wants to get her help, to protect her." They called Liam. He lied with a straight face. "She's always been jealous of me," he said. "She threatened to ruin me. She said she would destroy the family. She's vindictive. She's sick." I sat there and listened as they poisoned the room. I could feel the judge looking at me, his expression unreadable. I felt the eyes of the press on me. I could feel them starting to believe the story. Then it was Mr. Davies's turn. He stood up, the picture of calm. "Your Honor, we are not here today to discuss Ms. Sterling's mental health because she is perfectly sane. We are here to discuss Mr. Edward Sterling's greed." My father's lawyer shot up. "Objection! This is character assassination." "It is motive, Your Honor," Mr. Davies said calmly, "and I have proof." He didn't call me to the stand. He didn't need to. He called his first witness, a forensic patent expert. He placed a file on the witness stand. "Can you identify these documents?" "Yes. These are the original patent filings for the Sterling-Vance algorithm, filed in 1998. "And these?" Mr. Davies handed him a second file. "These are research notes from a Mr. Samuel Vance, dated 1995. They describe, in meticulous detail, the exact technology found in the 1998 patent. And who is listed as the sole inventor on the 1998 patent, the patent that built Sterling Dynamics? Edward Sterling. And is Samuel Vance's name anywhere on that patent? No, sir, it is not." My father was no longer smiling. He was staring daggers at Mr. Davies. "So Mr. Sterling's entire financial empire is built on an invention he did not create." Objection. Sustained. "But the point has been made, Mr. Davies. Move on." "My final piece of evidence, Your Honor," Mr. Davies said, This petition claims Mr. Sterling is acting out of love for his daughter. We will now prove he is acting out of a lifelong pattern of theft, coercion, and greed. He placed a small, old-fashioned cassette tape player on the evidence table. This is a recording, Mr. Davies announced, of a conversation between Richard Hale and Arthur Gable, dated 23 years ago. Mr. Vance was concerned about his son-in-law's ethics, so he recorded their meeting. My father shot to his feet. "This is a lie. This is inadmissible." "Sit down, Mr. Sterling," the judge ordered. "Play the tape." Mr. Davies pressed the button. The courtroom was dead silent. We heard a faint hiss, then voices. It was my grandfather, his voice older but firm. "You stole it, Edward. You stole my work. You took my name off my own invention." Then, my father's voice, younger, arrogant, full of cocky assurance. "I improved it. I made it marketable. It would have sat in your dusty study for 20 years. It's mine now, old man. The company is mine. The money is mine. And you will not say a single word, because if you do, I will ruin you. And I will make sure your daughter, my wife, never speaks to you again." My mother let out a small, strangled gasp. She was staring at her husband as if seeing him for the first time. She had never known. My father's face was ashen. He wasn't a CEO. He wasn't a titan. He was just a small, pale, sweating man. A thief. The tape ended. The hiss filled the silence. Mr. Davies turned it off. The judge looked at my father, his eyes like chips of ice. "Mr. Sterling," the judge said, his voice quiet but sharp enough to cut through the tension. "This petition for conservatorship is not just denied. It is an insult to this court. It is a clear and malicious attempt at fraud, driven by nothing but avarice." He then looked at me. "Ms. Sterling, you are free to go. Your assets are secure." Then he turned his gaze back to my father. "As for this recording and the evidence of patent fraud, this court is referring all evidence to the U.S. Attorney's Office for an immediate criminal investigation." My father's lead lawyer dropped his head into his hands. It was over. The gavel came down with a final, echoing crack. My father didn't look at me. He just stared straight ahead, his empire, his name, his entire life, collapsing around him in the space of 10 seconds. 6 months later, I stood at a podium. I wasn't in a cold courtroom or a suffocating ballroom. I was in a brand new building, a structure of glass and light, with the sun streaming through the windows. On the front of the building, in clean steel letters, were the words, "The Vance Institute for Quantitative Research." I had used my grandfather's money, all $95 million of it, to build a place he would have loved, a foundation dedicated to funding brilliant young mathematicians and scientists, the ones with big ideas who cared more about the truth than about profit. My old life was gone. My father was serving a sentence in a federal prison, not for hitting me, but for wire fraud, patent infringement, and a dozen other white-collar crimes. The tape recording had triggered an investigation that unraveled his entire company. It was a house of cards, all built on my grandfather's stolen idea. When the company collapsed, the money vanished. The Sterling Empire was a ghost. My mother now lived in a small, rented condo in Florida. Her society friends had disappeared. The Galas were a distant memory. She wrote me one letter, filled with blame and self-pity. She still didn't understand. She still thought I was the selfish one. I never wrote back. The Alpine mansion was seized by the bank. The Martha's Vineyard house was sold at auction. I received one email from Liam. It was short. Subject line, "You." The body of the email read, "You destroyed everything." I thought about it for a long time. I thought about the girl who wrote his literature papers. I thought about the girl whose telescope fund was stolen. I typed my reply. It was just 2 words. Subject line, you. The body. You did. I hit send and then blocked his email address forever. Now I stood at the podium. The room was full, not with socialites, but with students, professors, and the first cohort of young researchers receiving grants from the Institute. They were bright, eager, and they were the future. I looked at their hopeful faces looking up at me. I was not a ghost. I was not a prop. I smiled, and it wasn't a practice smile for the cameras. It was real. It was quiet. I tapped the microphone. "Hello," I said, my voice steady and clear. "Welcome to the Vance Institute." I spoke about my grandfather. I spoke about his love for mathematics and the power of a single idea. At the end, I looked out at the young women in the front row, the aspiring scientists. When I was growing up, I said, I was raised in a house where image was everything. They told me my job was to be quiet. My job was to serve. They told me I wasn't allowed to shine in case my light made someone else seem dim. They told me I owed them my life, my obedience, my future. They told me I was nothing without them. I paused, looking at all the bright faces waiting for my next words. They were wrong, I said. My life was mine all along. My future is mine, and my light is mine to share. I smiled at them. Welcome to the Vance Institute. Let's get to work. The room erupted in applause. It wasn't the polite, manufactured clapping from the gala. It was real. It was warm. It was for me. My father had taught me that justice was about power. My mother had taught me it was about appearances. They were both wrong. Justice wasn't a roar. It didn't need to be. It was a foundation. It was a new building. It was a new beginning. It was the quiet, solid truth finally resonating.